JB Middleton and Southern Miss dominate Texas State. It's Locked On Sunbelt.
You are Locked On Sunbelt, your daily podcast on the Sunbelt Conference, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
All right, Dave Schultz, Locked On Sunbelt, your teams every day. Today's episode brought to you by FanDuel. Right now, new customers can get $200 in bonus bets when your first $5 bet wins. All right, Coastal Carolina mows down Georgia Southern. And the big ball game of the day actually was the first one. ODU upsets Troy. And the Cajuns and Marshall at this point in time have not started yet. And we're not waiting up for that one. So, again, we will find out who wins that ball game in the morning. I probably can do a quick recap before I head off to work. But they will get the winner gets Coastal Carolina. The loser gets Georgia Southern. All right. So last week we saw JB Middleton pitch pretty well against Troy. Not great against Troy, but pretty well. All right. Did not win the Sun Belt pitcher of the year. That went to Jacob Morris. So you could, there's not much of an argument, right? You can be disappointed, but it really is splitting hairs. I'm actually impressed that the Sun Belt didn't cop out and give it co-pitchers of the year because they easily could have done it. They're both very deserving. But JB Middleton, as promised, Christian Ostrander did not hold back. And I thought in this ball game, first of all, the game was a 9-1 ball game. All right, it was not close. Southern Miss got on top early, 2-0 in the first, adding a run in the second, and just kept on, death by like 1,000 cuts because they left 16 runners on base. It could have been much, much worse. And I thought maybe it got to 7-0 after 5, and I think they gave up the run in the 6th. They did. They got into a little bit of trouble in the 6th. They gave up the run. They got the run back in the 6th. But they let Middleton come back out in the 7th. He only had 59 pitches through. He only had 59 pitches through 5 innings. That's not a lot. So yesterday was Wednesday. So Thursday, Friday, Saturday. So normally, professionally, not college, you're on 6 days rest. He's going on short days rest 2 weeks in a row. He pitched last Thursday against Troy. Now he's pitching on Wednesday. So that's even shorter rest, right? But usually 6 days. And professionally, you get 4. But a lot of times, postseason, they're pitching on 2, right? Or pitching on 3. They pitch on 3 days rest in the postseason. And I thought maybe 59 pitches, we can take them out. It's 7-0. They tacked on 2 runs in the 5th. We can take them out. No, they let him go 7 innings. Let me see how many pitches he did make. He still didn't make that many. Well, he pitched 103 pitches. So that's a lot. He had almost 60 pitches in 5. So he had 40 in 2. So not saying that he can't come back, but I'm thinking he's got 1 or 2 innings. He does not have a lot. I would doubt, because he's going to be a first-round pick, right? There is the short-term goals of, winning the Sun Belt Conference Tournament, winning a regional, winning a super, and winning a national championship, and JB Middleton being a first-round draft pick. Christian Ostrander is not going to lose sight of that. All right. Christian Ostrander has JB Middleton's future in his hands. He's not going to ruin a $1 million arm, a multi-million-dollar arm, okay, for some short-term gain. So he's not gonna, I would presume he's not gonna throw more than, 30 or 40 pitches on a Sunday. All right. He's gonna be ready to go for the regional. All right. As of right now, and there's more baseball to come, as it is only 9:23 on a Wednesday evening. Southern Miss did not move up. They are still 21st, still on the outside looking in. A lot of people do have them hosting, but I presume they're presuming either they win the Sun Belt Conference tournament or they get to the championship round. Now, Troy didn't win, so we will get to that one as well. As far as it goes offensively, you did have Jay Cook with a 2-run home run. He drove in 3, scored twice as well. Player of the year, Nick Montserrat, had a couple of base hits, scored a run. And then the bottom of the order, Ozzie Pratt with 3 runs batted in, and he went 2 for 4. I mean, they had 14 base hits. Cook had 2, Montserrat had 2, Joey Urban had 2, Higdon had 3, Barrett had 1, Stockman had 2. I mean, it was a balanced attack for Southern Miss. And JB Middleton was obviously at the forefront of that. Again, I thought maybe take him out. I like the idea of not messing around and overthinking the idea that we're going to hold him back for the semifinals, 3 games in. I get that. But I also think maybe we could have taken him out to have him pitch later on. But I would think that with him going 103 pitches, he may be done for the tournament, which I would have no problem with, especially if they get to the Sun Belt Championship. Is a championship great? It is. Is it the short-term goal? Of course. If they get to the Sun Belt Championship, do they have a regional in hand? Probably. Not definitely, but probably. You're going to need some help from some other teams, and there's a lot of moving parts these days with what's going on. I mean, behind them, they're talking. I mean, it's just a Twitter handle, but they're talking Northeastern wanting to host, right? And as hot as Coastal Carolina is and Southern Miss is, the Huskies have won 24 straight ball games. Like, they have lost like 1 game in 2 months. That's right. And Southern Miss has won 16 in a row. Coastal Carolina has won 15 in a row. And I know Northeastern's not in the same conference and they don't play the same competition. I get it. They've won 24 straight games in a row. That's a ridiculous amount when it comes to baseball. All right. So they're talking about that. I don't think Northeastern's going to host their 25th RPI, and their strength of schedule is nowhere near what either Coastals or Southern Misses are. But, people up there are talking about the same thing that's happening in the Sun Belt. All right. Let's move on. We'll come back. Coastal Carolina mows down Georgia Southern. We'll do that when we come back after I tell you about FanDuel. The NBA playoffs are in full swing, and every night delivers highlight-worthy performances, major momentum shifts, and can't-miss moments. Whether it's a game-winning shot or a breakout player, there's never been a better time to get in on the action. FanDuel makes it easy to stay in the game before tip-off and live during the game. With player props and performance trends and same-game parlays, fans have more ways than ever to play smart and win big. New to FanDuel? It's the perfect time to sign up. Head to FanDuel.com and place your first $5 bet. If it wins, you'll get $200 in bonus bets. Make every moment more with FanDuel, official sports betting partner of the NBA. All right, Dave Schultz, Locked On Sunbelt. Your teams every day. To give you an idea how vain I am, I was literally going to change the shirt, but I put on the hat because I did Wednesday's episode in the shirt. I thought people would get confused. Doing Thursday's episode, I put the hat on just so people wouldn't get confused. I know about the vanity, more like laziness, just so people wouldn't get confused. between the 2 days. All right. Had all those game recaps in the same shirt. We'll just leave it at that. Okay. Coastal Carolina following Southern Miss. They do the same thing. Riley Eichhoff, weekend starter, 5 wins on the year, just under a 3.5 ERA. Pitches very well for Coastal Carolina. 7 2/3 innings, 1 run on 8 base hits. Did not walk anybody. 6 punch outs. Does give up a home run. Georgia Southern did hit a home run, I think, to the deepest part of the ballpark. Yeah. Parker homered. And one of those things that just the way the ball came off the bat, he was like, wow, that's going to be hit pretty well. And it was. It almost hit I think it almost hit the train going by when he did hit it. And that was about it. So he gave up the 1 run on, did I say no runs? It was 8-1 is the final score, but it was the 1 run on 8 base hits, 7 2/3 innings, pitched very well, plenty of run support, 4 runs in the 3rd inning, and then 1 run 4th, 5th, 6th, 7th, and 4th, 5th, 6th, and 7th. Again, they couldn't quite run rule them. 12 runs. 12 hits, 11 left on base. Again, Coastal and Southern Miss both neither challenged today. Sort of expected, but not necessarily easy. And that's what makes baseball different than the other sports. We did have one upset, and we were going to get to that. But baseball, to me, is a much more flukier sport. In basketball, the 3-point shot is the great equalizer. If someone gets hot from 3, or if a couple people get hot from 3, we're just talking NBA with FanDuel, that could be the great equalizer. And in college basketball, it can be. That's what makes the NCAA tournament so great. Now, in college postseason, when you finally get to the double elimination, you do get 2 shots in case something fluky does happen. And baseball is meant to be a series. That's why the weekend series. That's why Major League Baseball plays 3 and 4 game series. There used to be 2 game series. I don't know if they do that anymore. Used to be. Heck, some minor leagues play like 5 game series. They just play the whole week. I don't know if that's to save, that could be just to save money. It cuts down on travel. That could be just to save money. But that's what baseball is meant to be. It's meant to be a series. It's meant to be a grind. It's not meant to be fluky. That's why analytics works for the year. It may not work in a short series because it's a very small sample. That's why the Moneyball A's never won, because it worked over 162 games. It may not work over 3 or 4. That's the difference. Anyways, Coastal Carolina, I don't know how I got off on a sidetrack. Anyways, Coastal Carolina, very good. Again, Southern Miss was good as well. Still looks to be a collision course. These 2 teams. Let me see if Coastal moved up in the RPI. Coastal is 10th. I mean, here you go. It's going to be crazy. I'm looking at Warren Nolan's because that gets updated. D1 baseball, not the website. The NCAA doesn't get updated till the next day, I think. Clemson is 9th. Coastal Carolina is 10th. Okay. So you have these 2 different statistics. The strength of schedule of Clemson is 19 because they're playing the ACC, whereas Coastal Carolina is 68. All right. Because they're playing the Sun Belt. But you take Clemson's non-conference schedule, that's 96. You take Coastal Carolina's non-conference schedule, that's 14. Coastal Carolina's non-conference RPI is 5. Clemson's non-conference schedule is 6. And, of course, Coastal Carolina didn't beat Clemson once. They beat them twice. So it's going to be very interesting to see if Coastal Carolina gets a national seed. All right. And with a national seed, I'm not worried about if you're lined up to play the number 1 seed in Omaha. I will worry about Omaha later. If you're a national seed, you got to go through Conway to get to Omaha. So basically, you're home for 2+ weeks, right? I mean, I would have to check exactly when the College World Series starts, but it's going to be a few days after the regional ends, and they always play super regional ends, and they always play for a little bit of rain, so something may end not only on that Sunday but on that Monday. So the College World Series probably won't start till Thursday or Friday, or maybe even that weekend. So you're basically home for 2.5 weeks. That is a huge advantage. And that is if you win your regional, right? You can't take that for granted. All right. So that would be big if Coastal Carolina can be a national seed. Then I would say the pressure does turn. The pressure does change. I've been saying for a few weeks now, getting to the regional isn't going to be good enough for Coastal or Southern Miss. As they went on a rant, the other day about the Cajuns, that they think that their standard is super regionals and Omaha. They'd like it to be. It's not, right? The standard right now is the NCAA tournament. They didn't get it this year, so it's a disappointing year. Coastal Carolina and Southern Miss are better than a regional team. They need to win the regionals, to me, or it's a disappointing year. You get a national seed or you host and you lose your regional, then that's a really disappointing end. Coastal Carolina becomes a national seed and they don't get to Omaha, that's going to be disappointing. That's going to be a tough pill to swallow. All right. I'm still not over Southern Miss losing at home with the ace on the mound against Tennessee a couple years ago. I'm sure they're not over it. It's so tough to be in the position of the Cajuns hosting Ole Miss, taking down Mississippi State, being up 1-0 on Arizona and not finishing the deal, right? Having Tennessee against the ropes and not finishing the deal, right? Going into Baton Rouge is, what Coastal Carolina did. That's a whole different animal. But if Coastal Carolina is a national seed and the regional and super regional, should they win the regional, goes through them, goes through Conway, I don't mind saying the pressure flips. Then all of a sudden, they're the favorite. They're supposed to be there. They're not the upstart, small G5, school with a cool, mascot. They're expected to win. All right. I don't want to hear about, teal fields and colors. They need to win. That it flips a little bit if that's the case. All right. Whereas Southern Miss doesn't host, they go to Baton Rouge. Yeah. The pressure's on LSU to win. Right. Don't tell LSU fans would admit that. LSU could go on the road for all I care. The pressure would still be on LSU to win. But Southern Miss at home, Coastal Carolina at home, the pressure's on them to win. Absolutely. Speaking of pressure to win, that's called a segue. There's a ton of pressure on Troy to win. They did not do it on Wednesday. We'll talk about that right after this. All right, more and more subscribers. Got like about 24 over the last 10 days or so. You guys are great. We're going to get closer to that 2,000 subscribers, hopefully by the end of the baseball season, as long as the baseball season doesn't end by the end of next week. Really appreciate it. Like about 4,000 views between the recaps on a Wednesday. Really do appreciate it. All of the feedback, a little poking the bear is fine as well. I can take it. Don't mind being wrong, although I haven't really been wrong yet because I had a lot of ifs in there. And Troy's sitting in the 40s on the bubble. We're going to get to that. Is not looking very good. They need to snap out of it and fast, but it is appreciated. Try to get this done. Last night, I ran out of gas on a Tuesday, so we did it Wednesday morning. I'm off on Friday, So we'll get to watch football. We'll get to watch baseball again. But we'll have updates throughout the weekend as we did last week as well. All right. So thanks very much. Please like and subscribe and get everybody as much as you can. Still working on getting down to the Sunbelt Media Days. That is the goal, at least for this podcast. All right. Thanks so much. Now let's talk ODU taking down the Trojans. All right, Dave Schultz, Lockdown Sunbelt. Your teams every day. Troy Trojans rolling into Montgomery on a 3-game losing streak. 4-game losing streak, actually, and have lost 4 out of 6 in the Sunbelt. Let me get that right. Hold on. I'm confusing myself because I think there was a win in there because of let me see here. Let me see. Yeah. Hold on. Now I have confused myself. Anyways, they lost 3 in a row. They lost 4 straight in the Sun Belt. I can't remember when the Samford game was. They played Alabama and Samford. Let's see here. All right. Well, they've now lost 5 in a row. Okay, so they did lose 4 in a row. The Samford and Alabama games were before the Arkansas State series. So they've lost 5 straight, 4 coming into the series. And they were somewhere in the 43 area. And they had a 2-2 ball game in the 7th. And ODU comes up with a huge 2-run single. I believe it was Luke Waters with a 2-run single in the top half of the 7th. The difference in the ball game. Rather well played, quick game. How long did the game last? I didn't think it lasted all that long. Oh, it did. 3 hours, 8 minutes. All right. That was a little bit longer than I thought for a 4-2 ball game. Let's see if we had were the runs. No, all the runs were earned, so the error did not come back to bite him. But Troy falls 4-2. ODU with a huge upset in this one because ODU, they were coming off getting swept by Coastal Carolina. They were beating. Remember, we didn't realize they were beating Jacob Morrison 2-0 through 5. But Jacob Morrison got bailed out and got the win because Coastal Carolina put a 7 spot up in the 6th inning. He pitched 5 innings, gave up 2 runs, and didn't come back out because Coastal Carolina ran away with the ball game 116-7 in that ball game. Let's see who pitched for Old Dominion. You had Brown, who pitched well, 2 runs, both earned, only a walk, 4 hits, 6 2/3 innings, struck out 9. Moore with the save, 2 1/3 innings, no walks, 2 strikeouts. He was outstanding. Faced the minimum, no base runners, and Troy falls 4-2. Whew. They have fallen now to 47th in the RPI as of 9:42 Eastern time. That's about as bubble-licious as you can get. In fact, they may be on the other side of the bubble. They get Texas State, and that's about as must-win as it comes. They go 0-2. They're going to find themselves not in the top 50. They're going to fall outside of the top 50 and probably out of the NCAA tournament. All right. Not a great time. All right. They are, I'm not even sure they're on the bubble anymore. They were on the bubble. D1baseball.com had them on the bubble in the upper 40s, like the last 4 in. So what Matt Stewart said, they had to win this ball game against ODU. And, if you lose to Southern Miss, your RPI is not going to take that big a hit. And then if you beat, Texas State, and then play Southern Miss again, you'd be okay. But now, unless you beat Southern Miss, you got to beat Texas State. And unless you beat Southern Miss, you're only going to get one shot at them. So Texas State's making this or Troy's making this very difficult for themselves. Really put them in a tough spot. They are reeling. And, their bats have just gone quiet. Again, the pitching hasn't been that bad. I know they had a bad inning on Friday, the second game. They lose 4-3 on Thursday. The bats never got going on Friday. They got blown out on Saturday. They had one bad inning on Friday, I understand. So it made the game look like a blowout. But the bats have just gone quiet. They're feeling it. All right. We need the Sun Belt needs Troy to snap out of it. And Texas State is not. I know what Southern Miss did, but Texas State is not the team to snap out of it against, because they get a massive performance on Tuesday. They have beaten Texas and Texas A&M and some other teams. They're not going to be afraid of Troy. No. They're going to want another shot at Southern Miss. So Troy's going to be feeling it. Texas State's going to be playing, hey, let's send Troy to their sixth straight loss, and we'll keep on playing. We don't have anything to lose. It's not like we think we're going to win this thing, but we can prevent Texas State from winning this thing. I'm sure that's not. We can prevent Troy from winning this thing. I'm confusing the two teams. I'm sure that's not Texas State's attitude. I'm sure they still think they can win it. They're not gonna, but there's no reason to think they can't beat Troy. No. Let's give ODU some props. Again, they were going in the wrong direction, getting their ass kicked 3 times by Coastal, and they pitched a whale of a game. Came up with a big clutch base hit. Again, I think they were 2 outs in the 7th inning. Yeah. There were 2 outs. So that's a clutch base hit for ODU. So that's a good job by the Monarchs. And with the win, they get Southern Miss. So we'll see. No JB Middleton now for Southern Miss. So basically, let's see if we can do this. I'm going to see if I can do it off the top of my head. So you do have, I won't know the times. I'll have to go to the schedule for the times. So it's going to be Southern Miss and ODU, and Coastal versus the winner of Louisiana and Marshall. And then you have Texas State taking on Troy, and then Georgia Southern taking on the loser of Louisiana and Marshall. All right, I got that. That was good. All right. Now, let's see how updated the Sun Belt Championship is. Let's see how updated the website is. Okay. So Thursday, you do have it updated. All right, so Troy's going to take on Texas State at 9 a.m. Central Time. That's the first game. All right, and then you're going to get, it appears you're going to get, they have not updated it. You're going to get Georgia Southern and then the loser of Louisiana and Marshall at 12:30 Central Time. Then ODU and Southern Miss, and then Coastal Carolina as the number 1 seed gets the primetime game. They will get the winner of Louisiana and Marshall. So half updated. Good job by them. All right. Thank you so much for tuning in. I will be at work tomorrow, so no updated videos unless I can figure out how to do that on a break. don't have great Wi-Fi out there. We're not in not great Wi-Fi. But thanks so much for tuning in. We'll have the day off on Friday, so we'll be able to get some stuff done on Friday. All right. And again, I will have a video update. Probably will have the video updated before you see this episode on the Cajuns and Marshall when I wake up in the morning. All right. Again, thanks very much for tuning in. Pretty good second day, first full day of Sun Belt Conference Tournament play. You've been watching Locked On Sun Belt, your teams every day. Have a tremendous Thursday, everybody.